All stories come from one universal story. At least, many stories share factors that can take the reader or viewer to a story that has been told and retold many times throughout the millennia. In fact, this story is so old that it was born with humanity. What is it, you ask? This is the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell introduced the hero's journey in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It was later refined by Christopher Fogler in The Writer's Journey, written in 2007. It is a stereotypical story pattern that has been used unknowingly and knowingly for thousands of years. In order to explain what it is, Campbell used examples from mythology and epic books to show that a great amount of stories use this laid out recipe. The hero's journey can be seen from ancient books such as the Odyssey and ancient Greek mythologies to the Harry Potter saga and the Supernatural series. Since video games are interactive stories, then the hero's journey serves the same purpose here than it does in books and movies. But what exactly is this story pattern? It constitutes of 17 stages that most protagonists go through during their stories. Since it would take a very long time to explain all 17 stages, we will reduce them into 3 main blocks: separation, initiation, and return. Well, let's start with separation. The character begins in a world they believe is normal and average. We must make sure to understand that this beginning must be normal to the character. For instance, in the game Dishonored, the player becomes Corvo Attano, bodyguard and consort of Queen of the Isles, who is returning to his home in Dunwall. To us, a steampunk world mixed with assassins and plague-infested cities is not normal. To Corvo, however, this is his world. It is his home and what he knows and loves. And yet, when he arrives, his lover is brutally murdered by assassins that hold a strange power that leaves Corvo powerless to protect her. Corvo is then framed for the murder and forced to flee Dunwall, lest they execute him. He escapes Dunwall's prison and crosses the first threshold that will lead him away from that now despicable world. It is, of course, essential to point out that within video games, having the character cross this threshold into the unknown is not enough. The players themselves must feel as though they have crossed it too. Games have gotten quite creative when it comes to this, usually opting for a sudden change of scenery, color, available skills, etc. Within Dishonored, Corvo emerges from the sewer system shows a complete change of scenery. It seems to expand the player's possibilities and introduces a world we knew existed, but had never actively seen it. In this game, Corvo might still be in the same environment that he had been in previously, but he is not now a wanted criminal that must hide from society while planning his revenge. A very important factor that we can see during the separation is the appearance of a supernatural aid. In almost all video games, this being is extremely important. It is the one that explains to the player what is going on and what the player needs to go. It impulses the player towards their new goal so that they may begin their journey into the unknown. In Dishonored, for instance, it is the outsider that offers Corvo new abilities and impulses him towards revenge. The next block is initiation. The hero gets used to this new world and begins to understand its rules and how it works. Sometimes, he begins to feel like he belongs in it. This is where most of the missions occur, both side missions and main missions. The narrative may be driven through a road of trials where the player must encounter enemies, decisions, and more. In newer video games, temptation has become quite interesting. For example, when playing Corvo, the player has 2 main options. He or she may kill or may spare the lives of those that cross his path. It is, after all, quite tempting to just kill a guard and get rid of the body so that they may continue on their merry way without issue. And yet, if the player falls into this temptation of murder, the game's ending will turn dark. Corvo's death and rebirth occurs when he is betrayed by those that have sworn to aid him in his quest for revenge. He has, after all, been backstabbed and thrown into an inner chaos that only a newfound strength to seek his goal can bring him. Now, let's talk about return. With the main enemy dead, or the goal achieved, the hero is now capable of returning to his own world, and yet he is forever changed. Not only the hero, but the video game player is also capable of returning to reality with newfound knowledge. In a way, they have become masters of the video game, of both its ordinary world and extraordinary one. Also, many issues Corvo manages to rescue his daughter and put her on the throne just as her mother was. Not everything, however, is butterflies and hearts, and both Corvo and his daughter will have to deal with new challenges and issues in their ordinary world. Now that we understand the hero's journey, we should point out that not all video games have all the factors that make up a monomyth. In fact, they may be even missing one of the three main ones. An example of this is Little Nightmares. The game starts in media res, and therefore skips the separation process. In fact, there is nothing that tells us that the main character actually returns to his own world. Other exceptions could potentially be multiplayer games, like Battle Royales. These hold little story, and the ones that do are usually weak. The true goal of a multiplayer game is the mechanics and the ability to interact with other players. Here, the story loses importance and sometimes is discarded altogether. Now, there's the fear of falling into the stereotypical narrative. The journey has become so stereotypical that if a game does not divert even slightly from the journey, then the game may become very boring. Therefore, a good game must still allure to the journey, but at the same time, bring new content to the table. It is the reason why we have seen change in this journey. Authors, movie directors, and video game developers are searching, stretching the journey, morphing it, but still maintaining that feeling it brings forth. Finally, in order to truly understand why the hero's journey is so widespread, we must understand how it works. In a way, everyone is living their own hero's journey. Most of us do not experience such fantastic and shocking journeys, but we're still in one. Perhaps our journeys consist of a trip to a new country. Perhaps it is to another town. Perhaps it is marriage, divorce. Perhaps it is a journey that starts when we leave with the womb. All in all, one fact remains. Our lives are a journey, and hence, seeing that as a fictional character is also going through this journey allows us to connect with them and ensures that we remain there till the end of the story.